The project for today is another one of my noise abatement projects. As many people have noted, the Timberline unit, when it's running, is relatively quiet, but what you can really hear is the fuel pump. It's this constant tick, 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 anytime the unit is actually on. And I got this hint from the internet. There's actually a way to completely fix this. So let me actually show you what's going on with the fuel pump unit. The fuel pump is actually right up here on the driver's side, just after the driver door. So let's crawl under the car and take a look at what we've got going on there. So here we are under the driver's side, and this is the fuel pump that runs the fuel for the Timberline system. If we look over here, you can see there's the gas tank. There's a little fuel line with a little YT. I suspect this just goes back to the generator. And this is the fuel pump line that runs into the fuel pump. So you can see what they've got here is the fuel pump itself, completely unshielded, just sitting here, mounted directly to this metal bar on the frame, which forms a perfect resonating board. So as the fuel pump, which is this little piston fuel pump, operates, we get this constant, which resonates through the whole frame. And that's where the noise is coming from. So that's what we want to take care of today. One other thing I noticed is the fuel line coming out here, completely unprotected plastic tubing. So I want to put a little protection on that. Following a suggestion from the internet, they suggested getting this little box off of Amazon. It's only about like 10 bucks. It's perfect size to fit up into that hole in that area. Big enough for the fuel pump. You just drill a hole, run the fuel line in and out, and you can secure that to the frame, and it isolates the sound nicely. So that's what we're going to do. First step here is going to be removing the fuel input line. You have to be careful as we remove the clamp not to leak any fuel. Do the same on the fuel output. We want to make sure that we don't get any bubbles in the fuel line as well. And then we can just go ahead and take the fuel pump off with the screws that are mounting it on. Just using a clamp to quickly isolate the fuel pump, then we can unscrew the fuel clamp, do the same on the other side, and then unscrew it from here. There we are with the unit all pulled out. The electrical disconnects, there's just a little wire clip that holds this in. We've capped off the gas lines. Interestingly, one of the main mounting points is on the exit line itself, not on the actual unit. Here is the actual unit itself. Disconnecting it, you just have to hold the nut from behind and then unscrew it from the front. So that's the spot the box is going to go into. And here is the utility box that I'm going to use. It should fit right up into this space very neatly. Actually, it kind of wedges in there pretty tightly. So I should be able to just drill a hole in there to use the same mounting screw hole to hold it into place. Alright, so here is the box that we're going to mount the fuel pump in. I have marked on the inside where to cut through the holes to match the holes in the frame, here and here. This will be my main mounting point right like that. I'll drill a couple holes output and input over there. And we should be ready to go. Okay, here we have the box that we've drilled the holes in. This is the mounting hole that the pump will mount into right here. The second hole here was for that extra little clamp they had around the output fuel line. This is going to be the input fuel line hole. I drilled it at about a 1/2 inch. That should be good enough to get through. The output lines, because we got to run that electrical cable connector through, was pretty big. It was just shy of 1 inch across. So there's going to be a large hole here to feed the cables through. And we'll look for some kind of rubber grommet or something maybe to seal up the entrance after we run the cables through. Hopefully there should be enough room for us to be able to get the wrench in here. I checked my socket wrench, and it seems like there's enough room to fit in there. That's going to be fun screwing it into the side. One slight wrinkle to our plans, the bolt they had there was just a little too short. Adding this extra thickness of the plastic was not going to reach. So I had to go buy a bolt that was like a little 1/4 inch longer or so. And now I think we're ready to try and mount it back in the space. Okay, we're to the point of trying to put this thing all back together now. So you can see I'm starting to feed the electrical connection through, clipped it back in there. Now I'm just going to feed the gas line output through the hole here onto there, and then the input line through the other side. Well, after a little finagling, we managed to get the pump in and mounted. It's kind of fun doing the bolt up in the top there, but it worked out okay. I did have to actually go get a little bit of an extension for the fuel hose up here. The existing extension was only about 2.5 inches, and so where I put it in the box didn't quite reach. But yeah, you can get this in the auto parts store pretty cheap. And I went ahead and put some extra protection around the open plastic tubing there, so that should be a little more solid. So now we just need to put the final screw in place here and button it all up. Well, there we are, all screwed in place. Everything is secure. Unfortunately, the screw hole for this one is a little close to the lid, so I might have to put a little notch in the lid to screw everything down tightly here. And yeah, I'll put in some sealant and grommets to cover the entrances here and here, and that should seal the whole thing up nicely. Well, there we are, all put together and buttoned up. Looks like it was made to fit there. Next test will be to fire up the Timberline and see what this thing sounds like. See if we've actually reduced the sound. Well, got in the van, fired up the heater, and you can definitely still hear the ticking, but it does seem to be substantially quieter than it was. There's the sound of the fuel pump running. Still very noticeable. Well, overall I'm a little disappointed in this mod. I mean, it looks good, it worked out the way I wanted it to, but it just didn't quiet the sound as much as I would have liked. Still very obtrusive. It's too bad they couldn't have found a quieter pump. This one seems just to be abnormally loud. But it is what it is. So that's it for this project.